I remember back before I even like read for fun or like picked up reading again, I heard about crime author Carmen Mola, and it was revealed that she was actually 3 men. And I thought to myself, that's wild. Probably never gonna happen again though, right? Hey, what's happening? And welcome back to my channel. My name is D, and today we're gonna talk about Freydis Moon and some pretty serious allegations against them. I know that this is coming out kind of late, but Wednesday, which is usually the day that I work on videos and stuff, was my wife's birthday, and I'm not gonna work on my wife's birthday. But before we get into the video, I gotta say thank you to my Plus Ultra Don't Fretter, my top tier supporter on Patreon, Laughing Cat Dog. Thank you so much for your support. You're helping me make these videos and ensure that I'm able to keep putting them out as frequently as I do. If you also want to help ensure that I'm able to keep creating this content and put it out as frequently as I do, or even more frequently, consider subscribing to my Patreon, or just like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And secondly, before I get into this video, I want to set a couple ground rules, or maybe set some boundaries. I don't know. Number one, while I believe like all the evidence and allegations that I've seen, these are still allegations. As far as I know at the time of recording, Freydis Moon has not confirmed the allegations. Number two, while Freydis Moon has been accused of faking their race, I do believe they're still non-binary. They are still a trans person, so I will be using they, them pronouns. I'm also going to use the term Latine a lot. That's my best attempt at pronunciation. I'm trying my best not to like pronounce it without slipping into like an accent and being like unintentionally racist in the process. And that term goes back to like the 60s or 70s, I think. Don't be shitty in the comment sections and misgender this person. And I'm also not going to like hold space for or engage with any discourse about Latinx or Latine. Just because somebody did something shitty doesn't give you license to be shitty, especially when the person who did the shitty thing isn't even part of the marginalized community that you're like trying to be shitty to. I'm really not going to entertain any bad faith arguments like, oh, that's what woke brain rot gets you or whatever the fuck. Like, just go to an alt-right booktuber for that. And lastly, I'm not trying to cancel anybody. Canceling's not real. I'm a literary commentary YouTuber or a commentary YouTuber. I'm just giving my opinion on something that happened. So I think this situation goes back like a couple of years, like I think March 2021, when a Twitter account called @AlertsBarton accused Freydis Moon of being Jupiter Wise, who is Taylor Barton. I might have gotten that mixed up. It might be they accused Freydis Moon of being Taylor Barton and thus Jupiter Wise. Either way, the accusation comes out. For those of you who don't know, Taylor Barton is an author who was accused of bullying and racism. Like a bunch of people came out and was like, this person bullied me and made me feel really uncomfortable and said some like racist things. And this was back in like 2020, I believe. Taylor posted an apology that wasn't really received well and then was dropped by their publisher. I do think it's kind of funny that this person posted this receipt, like, look at this like donation that I made. And then they get called out for that because it's like they're being accused of racism. So their response was to donate $500 to this organization that isn't like a black organization. It's not like an organization that's led by black people or really does much for black people, is my understanding. And then they're like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to donate all of the like royalties to Black Visions Collective. But then the publisher like drops the book, so there was no royalties. And part of me, who maybe I'm like too cynical, but I'm like, did you already know that was gonna happen and that you said that as like an empty gesture, which is like maybe like the whitest thing I've ever heard. Then after that, Taylor Barton kind of claims that they didn't do anything wrong and has a bit of a Twitter meltdown and then deletes all their accounts and, you know, yawn, boring. We've seen those moves before. And if you're thinking that's the last we're going to see of old TB, nah, fam, keeps going. So in comes newcomer Jupiter Wise. And Jupiter Wise is this newcomer who gets paired with a literary agent and some people on book Twitter who I guess do this kind of thing. Dug up a bunch of evidence that Jupiter Wise was also Taylor Barton or Taylor Brooke, or this person uses a lot of pen names. So there's comparisons of like, it's the same it's the same astrology chart. That was so hard. There's pictures of like the same Christmas tree, the same home decor. I think the cats are the same or very similar. So it makes for like a pretty decent argument that this is the same person using a different name. And what makes this extra sketchy is that Jupiter Wise was claiming to be a person of color, but Taylor Barton is confirmed to be white. And it's my understanding that Jupiter Wise, like I didn't know who Jupiter Wise was before kind of trying to do some research for this video, but apparently they would make jokes about being like dark skinned, would use dark skinned emojis and all that kind of stuff. So then these accusations come in, and even Jupiter Wise's agent was like, I've been lied to. And then you'd think that's the end of Jupiter Wise. But then, like an unhinged racist phoenix, Freydis Moon rises from the ashes. So Freydis Moon, much like Jupiter Wise, wrote a lot of trans Latine stories in the paranormal horror genre, which was really dope for a lot of people because there's a lot of Latine, trans, and trans Latine people who love the genre but aren't well represented in the genre. And I'm feeling for a lot of my friends and mutuals right now who, you know, like they are fans of the genre but weren't feeling represented and felt that gap and were big fans of Freydis Moon. Like a lot of them recommended Freydis Moon's books in those kind of videos where you're like, oh, yo, check out these books, like that kind of content. And then like a few days ago, at the time of recording, or like I guess the weekend of April 21st, an author named L. Porter came forth with a bunch of evidence that indicates that Freydis Moon is Jupiter Wise, aka Taylor Barton. L. Porter and an anonymous contributor who wants to keep their identity protected work together on like a Google Doc where a lot of this stuff comes from. So I'm gonna like link that below if the link is still live, but I'm gonna cover some of it here, like not all of it, but I will link it. So if you want to read the rest for yourself, you can. So it starts back in March when Freydis Moon posts a snippet of a work in progress in a Discord server for authors. I think it's for authors. And the snippet is very similar, like eerily similar to a snippet that was emailed to the anonymous contributor like 2 years prior from Jupiter Wise. Did I say that right? There's like a screenshot of an email, put it up somewhere here. There's another example where Freydis Moon talks about a novella that they're working on, which has some similarities to a work in progress by Jupiter Wise called Astaroth. Astaroth. I was right the first time. And then there's some metadata from like the Word documents of these snippets that, you know, it goes back to Taylor Brook, which is a pen name for Taylor Barton. And the rest of the Google Doc is more like, it's kind of the story of these two people who put it together. Like it's more about like conversations they had, whatever. So I'm not going to get too much into it. There's a bit where one of them privately and then publicly confronts Freydis Moon about this. Yeah, like one last thing. In that document, there's a screenshot of Freydis Moon confirming that they are also St. Harlow. So, you know, that name gets kind of bunched up into this mess. One thing I should clarify is that, you know, I don't know if Taylor Barton is like a white passing Latine person. I have a couple of friends that are Latina, but also passed for white. Shout out Sam and Megan. Love you both. The problem is that this person's pretending to be a person of color. I think it's pretty wild to be like canceled. Like I don't believe that cancel culture exists, but essentially kind of lose it all because you're being accused of being racist. Being like, I'm not racist, and then coming back doing brown face, like digital brown face. That is bold. It's like back in high school, a lot of kids in my class would say racist jokes to me, and I would say, you're racist. And then they'd say, I'm not racist, and then call me the N-word with a hard R. And it's weird. For some strange reason, those people don't follow me on Instagram, but I can see that they watch my stories a lot. Also, pretty bold of Freydis Moon to respond to all these allegations. Like, I don't have to prove myself to anybody. I'm going to prioritize my privacy and then keep posting on their Instagram like nothing's happened. But also don't go to the Instagram and cause trouble. Not that you can. They turned off all their comments. But yeah, they're just posting like matcha lattes and Taylor Swift albums or whatever. Back in college, that's right, I went to college. Don't worry, I flunked out. I heard about a woman who was like a professor of African American cultural studies and was an activist who was outing for being a white woman pretending to be a black woman. And you know what's really messed up is that like I went to Google that person's name because I couldn't remember her name. So I Googled like, you know, white professor pretending to be black or something. And there were so many stories. And I found a Wikipedia page for someone named like Jessica Ann Cruz. And I was like, okay, this has got to be the one. And no, completely different woman. Anyways, like I remember hearing about this story and thinking to myself, like, why on earth would you do this? And again, I'm hearing about this Freydis Moon situation and the fact that this is not the first time this person has done it. And I'm like, why would you do this? Not completely in a like disgusted way, but in a like, no, I genuinely want to know what would lead you to do this a couple of times. This is like that saying from the South, they want our rhythm, but they don't want our blues. And then they're like, no, we'll take the blues too. And like I said before, this is fucked up because trans Latine people don't get a lot of representation in literature and media in general. And a white person like colonized and appropriated their lived experience, their marginalization, and then blazed a trail for that community. But that path is paved on a foundation of lies, and which in some people's narrow minds delegitimizes representing trans Latina people in like literature, media. Or some people do the mental gymnastics of like, I don't care, I'm gonna just keep reading these. Engaging with Freydis Moon's content, which is giving like their attention, time, and money to somebody who's taking it away from trans Latine people. When I say that, I don't necessarily mean like anytime you engage with content written or created by somebody who isn't this marginalized community, you're taking it away from them or something like that. Or if you're like a white author, you getting a book sale is taking it away from like authors of color or something like that. That's not, I don't necessarily think that all the time. It is just in this one context where I do think that. For any other marginalized community, this would be fucked up in the sense that like, you know, these parts of our identities push us to the margins, right? Whether we're talking about like race, religion, gender, or lack thereof, sexuality, disability, whatever. And then somebody comes along and like puts on our identity like a costume and uses it like a marketing tactic. And I know that anyone who would do something like this isn't necessarily hinged enough to hear what I'm saying or like take what I'm saying to heart. If you're a cisgendered, heterosexual, able-bodied, neurotypical, white, probably man, and you feel like, I don't know, you don't stand out in the literary world and you would if you were like a different race, gender, sexuality, whatever. I don't know if it would. I don't think that the thing holding you back is that you don't have a marginalized identity. The thing that might be holding you back is maybe you're not as good as you think you are. Maybe you're boring. And instead of doing like black or brown face, instead of claiming like a sexuality or a gender identity that you don't actually like resonate with, maybe just like develop a personality. You know, take a comedy class. Don't steal a marginalized identity and take up the few spaces that marginalized authors already have or don't have. I feel like there's so few like opportunities for marginalized authors to be like published in publishing, at least traditionally, and it's hard for independent marginalized authors to like get book sales and stuff like that. And marginalized communities are underrepresented in books and stuff like that a lot. And it's almost like the publishing world has this like, nah, we already got one mentality. Or maybe it's like a societal thing, because I get that a lot doing this, like doing booktube or whatever. Like anytime I talk about one of these situations or talk about a pretty popular book, 20 to 25% of my comments will be comparing me to a bigger booktuber, like a specific person who also isn't white and sometimes wears glasses. And like, no hate to that YouTuber. Like, I'm sure that they're a really solid person, really cool. I just get kind of frustrated because I'm tired of comments like, hey man, you didn't need to make this video. This person already did. A lot of people commenting on this situation, like on various posts on the internet, keep comparing it to Yellowface, which I think is kind of funny because like Freydis Moon has said that they hate this book, which I'm like, that's funny because it's like, oh, you're being called out and you don't like that, I guess. But it's also annoying because I also hate that book with an ever-growing passion for different reasons. Like, don't worry, I'm not faking it. But I don't think the situation is exactly the same. I don't remember if R.F. Kuang wrote in that because of what that character did, Asian authors or half Asian authors were like getting a lot of hate or were put under scrutiny or something like that. Because right now there's a lot of hate and scrutiny that's being heaped onto actual trans and Latina authors. When a marginalized person does something shitty, is caught doing like something harmful, problematic, whatever, a lot of people take that as confirmation of their prejudices and as permission to express their hateful opinions out loud. And again, I know that Freydis Barton Taylor Moon doesn't care, but this hurts people. This is bigger than themselves. A lot of readers who felt seen by their works, you know, they feel lied to, they feel ripped off. They like spent their money on this, spent the time that they won't get back on this. Actual trans authors, actual Latina authors, actual trans Latina authors are under pressure to reveal their names or prove their identities or whatever, and that can be dangerous. Like, their safety could be at risk because of this. And like, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think if you need to colonize and appropriate somebody else's lived experience, somebody else's identity in order to get a shot at publishing, like, I don't know, you might not be that good. I don't even love the way that I just said that, because I don't want to imply that some people only get like an opportunity because they're marginalized, because that's very, I don't even remember what the main character of Yellow June coded. But what I mean is like, but there are very few opportunities given out. And sometimes like publishers do only want to have one just to prove it or whatever. And that's kind of more what I'm leaning towards. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining my point well, and I'm sorry if I'm not. And I guess what I was trying to say is, if you feel like you need to take from someone else instead of just like getting your own, that's a problem. And also, I'm not trying to imply that you can only write like your one lived experience. So like for me, it would be like all of my characters have to be light-skinned men. That's not what I mean, because there's a difference between like featuring a character and telling the story of a lived experience that isn't yours. Like, I guess an example, I don't know if this is a great example, but like The Star of the Sea is written by a white woman, but the main character is a gay black man. But Aaron Morgenstern doesn't like tell the black experience. And there's no like negative stereotypes or anything like that. Like, he's just a nerd who goes on an adventure, basically. Everything that Freydis Moon, St. Harlow, Jupiter Wise, Taylor Barton did, these are all choices. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you kind of lose face in the publishing world and you want to come back anonymously under a different name because you want to, you know, put out your writing, be told that it's good and make money off of it, you could have just come back without claiming to be a different identity, right? Like you could have come back as like Mark Mary or Joshua Jane Johnson or something, but now they decided to do brownface because why? I guess my takeaway is like, hey, if you're a writer, you want to stand out, don't do this, you know, like don't do brownface, don't do blackface, don't. I think sometimes people, and it seems to happen a lot with authors, are very focused on wanting to be successful and wanting to get their bag or whatever, that they're willing to do some pretty unhinged things to do it. And I know that there are like pop stars that do this kind of thing where they like kind of change their appearance to seem more racially ambiguous than they actually are. And then as soon as they're successful, they stop rapping or they stop doing R&B and they stop like tanning themselves to look, you know, like me, when they actually look more like a snowman. Like, I get that authors aren't the only people who do stuff like this. But what's really tough is that there are probably trans Latina writers who want to become published who probably struggle with like really serious imposter syndrome, right? And then you have an actual imposter, alleged imposter, just raking it in. Yo, being an imposter has got to be a lot of work. Like, imagine just like trying to keep all the names straight, all the information straight. Like, it's easier to just be honest, you know? And I think that this person, and I'm not saying like, hey, guys, this is how you do it. I'm just saying this person is kind of sloppy, you know, like posting the same photos and blah, 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 blah. Like, don't do that. Not even like if you are trying to operate under a different name, you got to write new stuff. Don't be repurposing your old stuff like no one's going to notice, because people apparently notice. Like, a bunch of people noticed. And again, I'm not saying, hey, don't get caught. I'm saying, hey, don't do it. And your life is easier if you don't do shit like this. You don't have to keep all this information straight. You don't have to like there's so much energy that goes into maintaining a facade of any kind, you know what I'm saying? Like one time when I was younger, I was dating this woman, I pretended that I was super into oh fuck, what's it called? I don't even remember what the band is called. Fall Out Boy. And like it was exhausting because I had to like learn lyrics and shit. I ended up like liking a couple of their songs, but yeah, I wasn't as into it as I pretended to be because I just wanted her to like me. And it was exhausting, and you shouldn't do that. I'm a bad guy for doing it, and so it's like there's better ways to, I guess, stand out. And like I'm assuming that's why, but I don't know. But it perplexes me. It upsets me and perplexes me. And, you know, I didn't get around to reading a bunch of trans Latine books this week, but I'm going to look for some, read them, and have a recommendation for y'all in the nearish future. In the meantime, don't do stuff like this. We can all do better. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it, subscribe, share it, hit the notification bell. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to support the channel even more and gain access to exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, make sure you consider subscribing to my Patreon. I do like an extra rant review video once per month. You also get access to my private Discord server where you can chat with me and a bunch of really cool, lovely, sweet people. They are... Honestly, I love talking to these people. They're the best. We also do a book club where we all like pick a book, read it, and then we do a live stream where we all chat about it. And I do another live stream where we just chat, you know, hang out. So there's like 2 live streams and an extra video. There's a lot of extra content. Got to say thank you to my super duper don't fretters, Keisha, Cassie, Knightsmith, and Oliver. Thank you so much for your support. You're also ensuring that I'm able to keep creating this content and put it out as frequently as I do, and even more frequently, hopefully in the future when life stops being horrible or my mental health gets better or whatever. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Y'all have a good one. Don't fret. I'll see you next time. Peace out.